Welcome back to the Bumper Breakfast. Like I said, we're talking real estate this morning, and it's quite interesting that we have Mr. Bamidele Adewale right here. Have just been wondering, how does this sector thrive despite the prevailing economic conditions that Nigerians have been groaning under? He's here to talk to us more about this morning. Good morning, good to have you.
Good morning, thank you for having me.
How do you think the people in that sector, how do you think they've been doing it? Because people are building houses and they say there's no money. People are buying and they say there's no money. People are selling land and they say there's no money and they're still selling. How?
Well, I think first and foremost, the first thing we would ask ourselves is there really no money? I think what we have in this country is not so much a situation of lack of money. I think it's more of a situation of inequality, right?
Okay.
I mean, I'm an economist, and during the course of my studies in economics, we were taught about the fact that countries like Nigeria, developing countries like Nigeria, have high levels of inequality. So what you see is a situation whereby you have people, a lot of people who have money, and then you have a lot of people who don't have money. So what you're seeing now in the real estate space is that those people who have money are the ones who are investing in real estate, right? The ones who don't have money are just trying to survive. A lot of people are just out there just trying to survive. But there are quite a number of people that have the funds. Okay, they are hustling, you know, the corporate class, the elites, the upwardly mobile people, they have some funds. Some of them are quite comfortable. So those are the people who are investing. And then mind you, there's a significant gap in the real estate space in terms of the demand and the supply. There's an estimated 17 or 18 million units gap, housing gap. So the demand is there.
So you're saying that the demand is what makes this money available, despite the fact that people are not comfortable, as it were?
Yes. Now, if the inequality was not as bad as it was, right, the demand would have been a lot higher than it is now. So I also have to make it clear that the growth in the real estate space has not been as big as we expected. Right? Other sectors have grown a lot faster and a lot higher than the real estate space. But the real estate space would always grow in Nigeria because there's that demand supply gap.
Now, Nigerians are said to, or Nigeria is said to have one of the poorest people in Africa. And the mindset of the average Nigerian is, when I solve the problem of housing, I've dealt with half of the problem already. Is that a poor man's mentality? Because I do say that Nigerians are not as poor as we say they are.
That's true. Exactly. Nigerians are really not as... Nigerians are... There's high-level poverty. There's no doubt about that, right?
Yes.
But then, we've also forgotten that we have a very large population. Right? And in absolute terms, the people... In relative terms, the amount of people who are rich or who are well-to-do in Nigeria are not that many. But in absolute terms, you know, when you apply a small percentage on a very large number, you actually have a large number. So you have quite a number of people who actually have the funds. I'll give an example. Many years ago, I used to work in the stockbroking industry, right? And we still had the same problem that we have today of inequality, of widespread poverty. Now, there was a public offering that was done by a company. I think it was a bank then. To raise 100 billion naira, right? Will you believe that within the space of about a few months, that company was able to raise about 200 or so billion, just within the space of a few months? So the question I ask myself is, where is all this money coming from?
They say it's the rich people that kept their money that is bringing out the money now.
Well, rich people that kept their money, yes, but then you also have the middle class as well. There's a middle class. People say, oh, the middle class doesn't exist. I don't agree with that. I think there is also a middle class, right? And that middle class seems to be growing somewhat. Okay, so you have a lot of, for instance, in the real estate space, there's an emerging demand in the middle class. So you have a lot of people demanding for properties within the Lekki axis, the Aja axis, the Shankutedo axis, and all of that. There's a growing demand in that space. And a lot of people are also beginning to understand the benefits of investing. So even those who are struggling financially, some of them are actually saving and putting some money aside to do some investments. Even if you can't afford to pay outrightly, right? You can at least afford to pay over 12 months, over 16 months, over 18 months, over 24 months. People are beginning to understand that in times like this, right, when you have money, even if you don't have as much money as you would have liked, right, you don't spend the money, rather you invest it for the rainy day, because the rainy day is definitely going to come.
The rainy day. Nigerians are talking about the housing deficit and the high cost of housing as well. They say it is because of the increase in materials, building materials.
Yes,
but then you've built the house. But every year, the house is still the house. No renovation, nothing. Yet I'm paying so much. So it's not just the builders and the sellers that are thriving. The landlords are also thriving in the real estate sector. So it's a system that I feel, if you agree with me, it's a system that I feel favors investors and usurp the lower rung of the ladder, the customers in this case, the people who are renting houses, the people who are buying. That's the way I see it. I see it as a matter of the people who take get more and the people who give get less.
When you talk about building material prices going up, it's really not a very nice situation for most players. For instance, for developers, I'm a developer. I run a real estate company based in Lagos, and it's a big problem for us because we want to develop new housing units. We put out our prices there in the market, and before you know it, our margins are already coming under pressure, right? Because the costs that we use to determine those prices, those costs are not applicable anymore. So we can't sell at those prices anymore. We have to increase the prices, but then when you increase prices, demand falls. Right? You know, so we're in a bit of a conundrum. We can't increase prices very easily. So our margins are under pressure. That's the problem. Now, the new investors, a lot of them also find it difficult to invest. Some of them find it difficult to invest because you wanted to invest, for instance, in a 2-bedroom apartment going for 20 million. You start saving towards it. All of a sudden, the company says it's now 25 million. You can't afford it anymore. So the people who are really benefiting from this building material prices going up are the early investors, those who already had houses. The early investors, you mentioned landlords. So landlords, yes, they are benefiting because when building material prices go up, it means the value of their units, the housing units, go up as well. So they are the ones who are investing. So the recommendation I'll give to anybody is this: as early as possible, if you have the funds, right, invest in property because the prices will always go up. There are two reasons why the prices will go up. One, the demand for the land would go up, and that would drive property prices up. Secondly, as long as building material prices continue to go up, the value of those properties will go up as well. So the best thing to do, invest as quickly as you can so that tomorrow you can reap the benefits of those property prices going up.
You see, one of the reasons why we're having this conversation this morning is to give hope to Nigerians out there to know that despite the prevailing economic pressure, they can still invest in real estate, or they can still want the desire to own a land. I want you to end on that note this morning.
Okay, so my recommendation, just as I've said earlier, is this: no matter how much you earn, right, always try and put aside a certain amount of your income.
If I earn 30,000,
even if you earn 30,000, let me paint it this way. I once spoke with a friend of mine. I told him, I said, look, your salary, you complain your salary is too small, you can't save. Imagine if the company you work for were to cut your salary by 20%, will you survive? And the answer the person gave me was, yes, I'll survive, I'll cope, I'll manage. And I said, why don't you assume that your salary has been cut by 20%? Just assume, right? And then build your life around 80% of your salary. The other 20%, put it aside. It's all about discipline. And it's something everybody can do. Everybody can afford to at least buy something somewhere. It might not be in a developed area. It might be in a remote area, but just put aside something small, no matter how small, start investing so that one day you can at least become a landowner. The moment you have your land, you can then start planning to build your
a
house.
house.
You know, so I believe it's something everybody can do. I just believe not everybody has discipline to get there. You need to be disciplined to do it.
Thank you so much, Bamidele, for joining us on the Bumper Breakfast this morning. It's always a pleasure having this kind of conversation and, of course, giving people hope. We'll see you again tomorrow morning on the Bumper Breakfast. Remember, it's Friday, and I'll be having a whole lot of fun. Join me tomorrow. Have a beautiful day.